Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and I think it's time to show some more replays from some subscribers. We're going to have a couple of Tier 5 tank destroyers in this video, kicking off proceedings with Fick GR in his T67. That's the American turreted Tier 5 tank destroyer. I say turreted, both of the Tier 5 American TDs are turreted. It's the one on the turreted line, so we're not talking about the Wolverine here. Now, Fick does spend the first little bit of this game not really going anywhere until eventually he finally gets going. Or she, I don't actually know their gender. But we're here on, let's just make the map a little bit bigger. What is the name of the map? Arctic region, there we go. We're here on Arctic region. It's a Tier 6 match. The T67, as I mentioned, is a Tier 5. So Fick here is middle of the road in terms of matchmaking. Not at the top, not at the bottom, just kind of somewhere in the middle. T67 used to be known as the T49, generally considered a bit on the OP side. It's a very, very good machine. I own it and I occasionally play it, although I'm not a huge fan of this tank. I personally actually prefer the Wolverine, but that's a personal choice. It is a very, very good tank. And somehow he managed to bounce something there. The T67 does not get any armor. So the fact that he actually bounced a shot, let's have a look at where that bounced. Can we see? Right off the top there, it was it hit at a terrible angle, that's why. But the fact that Fick's T67 was able to bounce that shot is, well, let's say you shouldn't expect that performance from this tank in your games. Panzer III-4, again, get a little bit lucky. The aiming stats on this gun aren't necessarily the best, but manages to snap a shot into that guy. And now there's an OI experimental that wants to eat Fick's tasty face, but he takes a 76mm shell for his troubles. The gun used on this tank, this is the 76mm gun that you find on a whole bunch of mid-tier American machines. 128 penetration, 115 alpha damage, with a good reload, but some slightly dodgy accuracy going on. The ammunition supply that this tank gets is not particularly great. I do actually have a review of this tank on my channel if you want to go and take a look. I don't want to turn this video into that, however. And Fick has kind of been left all alone on this flank. Oh, there's a Hellcat. So it was a KV-1 and Fick versus a Skoda T25, Panzer III-4, VK, and Skoda T24 there. Sorry, T40, not the T24. But then a friendly Hellcat turns up to make it ever so slightly better. Fick manages to take out the Panzer III-4 and starts putting shots into that heavy tank number 6, but you know, VK turns up, needs a good killing. And back to heavy tank number 6, Cupola on top of the guy's turret. So Fick here is able to shoot the Japanese heavy tank without really taking any damage in return. A couple of shots in. And already Fick has fired a lot of shots. I mean, it's not difficult to get the reload on this gun below 3 seconds. Oh, but that 88mm gun is looking this way. Yeah, this is a dubious situation. Sets the Japanese heavy on fire. And this guy kind of looks like he's almost given up at this point. There we go. There's the kill for Fick's third. Now he's down to 10 rounds of armor-piercing ammunition remaining, takes one hit from the Skoda T25, had to really take that shot because the Skoda T25 has a magazine, and, well, that actually ended up being the end of the game. A very quick one there for you. So let's go and take a look at those post-game stats. Here we go then, the results of Fick's game. Ace Tanker, something I've yet to achieve in my T67, Bruiser, Fighter, Fire for Effect, and the High Caliber medals. 2,327 damage done, 4 kills, 1,240 base experience, easily outstripping anyone else in the game in terms of damage done and experience earned. And if we actually have a look at the enemy team, they did not have a good performance whatsoever, with more than half of them doing the grand total of 0 damage. So that was a bit of a stomping match. The match only lasted a few minutes, but all the same, a nice result there for Fick. 27 shots fired, 22 hits, 20 penetrations for that damage count. Remembering, of course, he got a fire on the Type 6 Heavy, which kind of eased things along a little bit. Tier 5 is fairly profitable, so even without a premium account, Fick managed to make a 25,500 credit profit. That would have been a 40,000 credit profit with a premium account in a match that lasted less than 4 minutes. So, all told, that's a pretty nice game there. Let's go and have a look at our second outing for this video. Okay, in this second game we have got Wolf C playing for us, and Wolf is driving the Tier 5 British tank destroyer, the Archer. This is on the turreted British tank destroyer line, despite the fact that it doesn't have a turret. I know, the last one, don't worry about it, it's just one of those things. Now, Wolf actually has 2 marks of excellence if we have a look at the gun barrel here on his Archer, so he clearly does well in this machine. And we're on the same map here, so this is Arctic region once again, and Wolf is going to take up a position that I've actually never seen before. So this is going to be interesting for me to see what he does with it. Now the Archer is basically a Valentine chassis with a 17-pounder gun mounted on the top and mounted backwards. So I guess that means you can run away from the fight relatively easily. But it does mean driving it around most of the time. You are driving it in reverse, which is a bit of an oddity. I imagine it's a machine that takes a bit of getting used to. Not acquired or played this machine myself. Not yet had the pleasure. Wolf takes a bit of a blind shot there. I mean, it's the sort of thing where he may well hit the guy in question. Even though the guy's out of his render range, that doesn't stop you actually doing damage to them, it just stops you resolving them on your map. Just going to make the minimap a little bit larger there. Season M4 improved. As far as I can work out, that machine is pretty garbage. 17-pounder gun has 171 penetration with armor piercing, 150 alpha damage. So that makes short work there of that M4. Wolf actually deciding to use auto-aim for the purposes of that wouldn't have been my choice, but it worked out in the end, and as the guy was going relatively slowly, that wasn't too difficult to make work. Wolf actually apparently has a zoom mod installed, so this 25x zoom is not something you get with the vanilla game client. In case anyone was wondering how Wolf was getting this, this is a perfectly legal mod. As far as I'm aware, you can argue all day long as to whether it should be legal or not, but to the best of my knowledge, it is. And so all these guys appear much larger than they are. Now, this AT2 is actually quite a tough little target to penetrate. 203mm of frontal armor there, and, well, yeah, 171 penetration is good at tier 5, but still going to find it difficult to penetrate that AT2. Now this is a much more traditional tank destroyer game than the previous one. The T67, it looks like Wolf did do some damage. T67 has that turret, which the Archer of course does not. The Archer is more kind of, in terms of use, it's more a traditional campy TD. And actually, Wolf is able to pick out the Commander's cupola there on the AT2, and that's kill number 3 as he takes out that machine. Having a look now to see if he can get shots on the T80. Sorry about that, but the guy is behind a hill. And Wolf decides to relocate. Now we've got a KV-1 and a T1 Heavy, both heading towards the friendly base here, which could be slightly problematic. The Marder is down, which basically leaves Wolf and, well, a Marder 38T to kind of defend the friendly base here. So this is a slightly dicey situation. There's only 4 of them left on the friendly team. They are outnumbered 2-1, and there are some pretty big scary enemy tanks still alive. Now we know the other KV-1 isn't up here. That's fighting the friendly Panzer T25 down in F3, so there is that. But KV-1 and a T1 Heavy, that's still something that could be problematic. Now the T1 Heavy has actually gone up onto that hillock, and, well, the Marder 38T just takes him out, so that makes life much easier. And that just leaves this KV-1, assuming he's going to crop up somewhere, to be a problem. Friendly team, oh, hello Mr. T34. Friendly team lose the friendly T25 there, the Panzer T25, but not before he's killed the enemy KV-1. I've no idea what that T34 thinks he's doing. Gets shot gets shot. Wolf must have been spotted. Just keeps going, doesn't even turn his turret to shoot in the right direction. That was a bit weird. And Wolf decides at that point to get out of dodge. So he actually manages to take no damage from that T-34, which is quite a nice position to be in. Still that KV-1 somewhere, and look, it's a little Stuart, bless him. And it's this sort of situation where if the Stuart had any sense, he'd be hiding behind cover, and Wolf's use of auto-aim, and he does use it a lot in this game, would have been problematic. But as it is, it's not. Everything works out in the end. The Stuart not even hitting Wolf there in his Archer. Enemy KV-1 has now turned up, although he appears to be paying Wolf absolutely no attention, which seems like a curious tactic, if you ask me. Wolf just puts 2 shots straight through the front of the guy's turret, 3 shots, and 171 penetration at tier 5 really does ruin things, and just as I say that, he bounces the killing shot. What are you going to do? One of those situations. So, we know where the M8A1 is, we know the T67 or where it was last spotted, and the Bishop, well, he's got a short range, so if he's incompetent, he's still over by the enemy base. If he has got even 3 brain cells to rub together, he will have moved to try and keep up with his friendly tanks and actually do something. Wolf is still trying to set up an ambush on that KV-1. He left the guy at 1 shot, so this is not a terrible idea. And he's basically cutting off the KV-1's movement. The KV-1 doesn't really have that many options now. He can't really go into the friendly base because Wolf will just knock his head off. Now we've got the friendly Covenanter here. I'm not really sure what he thinks he's doing. Wolf doesn't really need the help in this particular position, and the Covenanter's a 1-shot and doesn't have the gun to really deal with the KV-1, certainly not frontally. So I'm not really sure what he thinks he's achieving by being in that bush. And here you can see the big downside of having the gun mounted backwards. Wolf is now driving, at least in terms of the way the gun is pointing, forwards. But because of the way this tank is set up, he is actually driving backwards. So this is the reverse gear. It's really ponderously slow. In order to go anywhere, you have to put this thing into reverse and off you go. But Wolf's not doing it, because then if he came across the KV-1, he'd have to turn around in order to bring the gun to bear on him. So, and again, I've not actually played it. This looks like a kind of awkward machine to actually use. But, you know, I could be wrong. Now, friendly Marder has been on a bit of a killing rampage and manages to kill the enemy M8A1. There's the Bishop. He was keeping up with the friendly tanks. There's an ammo rack. And there's the enemy KV-1. I have absolutely no idea what this guy thinks he's doing, apart from dying, and they become Wolf's kill number 4 and 5. That just leaves the T67 now. T67 is lightly armoured enough that Wolf could load high explosive here and do a lot of damage to him. Slightly surprised he's not choosing to do that. Possible it just didn't cross his mind, but he's still got the armor piercing loaded, and he only has 3 rounds of armor piercing remaining. Now, on the one hand, you could argue, yeah, sure, but sometimes high explosive doesn't always penetrate these targets, and that is true. And also, the alpha damage on this gun is sufficient that he, depending on the guy's health, he may not actually need HE. That is also true, but personally, I'd have loaded it. If you're going to go around with any HE on your tank, this is the sort of time when you want to use it. So you can see, even going forward, quote unquote, or at least in your direction of fastest travel, the Archer doesn't exactly go particularly quickly. He's doing about 30 kilometers an hour here. And Wolf does have to be careful. A T67, as we saw in the previous replay, is a very dangerous machine and is perfectly capable in the hands of a good player of giving an Archer an awful lot of problems. At the end of the day, the T67 has mobility and a turret, and Wolf's Archer doesn't really have either of those things. The penetration difference between the two tanks doesn't really count for much, as neither of them have a huge amount of armor to work with. So, yeah, slightly dicey situation here. The fact that Wolf is on his own means he could very easily get caught out. Now you can see he's played this tank an awful lot. Oh, and the Covenanter just died, so the T67 is around here. You can see Wolf's played this tank a lot, not only the 2 marks of excellence, but also the fact that he's somewhere where he expects there to be some hostile machines, and so he immediately turns his tank around so that he's got his gun pointing in the direction he expects the bad guy to be coming from. So he's no fool. Now, I am going to speed this up a little bit because watching an archer ponderously advance on someone is... it's horrible. I mean, like 11, 12 kilometers an hour, my lord. Be interesting to see where this T67 actually is, and there he is. 151 health remaining, 1 AP shell could do this. Rolls for 150, which is the exact average damage roll on this gun. 1 more shot to finish him off. There we go. 1 round of armor piercing left in the chamber, and that becomes Wolf's top gun. So let's go and have a look at those post-battle stats. Here we go then. Ace Tanker, Bruiser, Demolitionist, Fire for Effect, High Caliber, and of course that Top Gun medal for Wolf there in his Archer. If we have a look at the post-games, at the team lists, 2,645 damage done, 6 kills, 1,410 base experience. That's a very good game to have at Tier 5. Looking at the enemy team, commiserations to the enemy T67 and the KV-1. They both managed, or one of the KV-1s, they both managed around about 1,000 damage, which is still a good showing in your Tier 5 machines. Not really sure, I assume it's not the same KV-1, but not really sure what the KV-1 that Wolf came across was doing. He just seemed to, I don't know, maybe the guy had to go away from the keyboard for a while or something. Don't know. Shout out should also go to the friendly Panzerkampfwagen T25. About 1,000 damage from him is not a bad showing at all, and that Marder, 800 damage, 880 damage from him is a nice result. 29 shots fired, 22 hits, 19 penetrations for that damage count. In the end, actually, given that the archers are very traditional TD, should we say, it's surprising that only around about 1,200 of that damage was from what you might consider long range. The rest was from closer range. 2 enemy vehicles spotted, 8 damage, 6 destroyed, 261 assistance damage, a few base defense points. And in terms of profitability, that would have been a 25,000 credit profit with a standard account. It was a 40,500 credit profit with a premium account and a nice amount of XP as well. So there we go. We've got... In that video, we had the T67 and the Archer, both Tier 5 tank destroyers, both regular Tier 5 tank destroyers. Neither of them were premium machines, but very, very different tanks. So, I hope you guys enjoyed those replays and this video. If you did, by all means, feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel. And if you wish to send me your own replays, just upload them to whatreplays.com and send me the URL to your upload as a PM on YouTube, and I shall take a look. I try to prioritize either players or tanks that we have not seen before, or at least not seen in a very long time. With that said, once again, I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you guys in another video. Ciao, ciao.